Well, good morning. Welcome to Space Oddities. For the landing of the Boeing Starliner, due to a change in the schedule, they're actually landing an hour early than was programmed. So we're actually here much earlier with you than we thought we would be. So good morning, Daz. How are you?
I'm fine, but we're not transmitting, if I can see, because it's on a countdown from 8 minutes.
Right. Well, we'll keep transmitting.
Oh, wait, yeah, carry on.
Okay. So at the moment, the spacecraft is just carrying out its first steps for the final re-entry into the atmosphere, and we're waiting with bated breath here to see whether this landing goes okay. So far, things appear to be going normally. Any thoughts, Daz?
Yeah, well, oops, sorry, let's get the microphone down.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, they've done the orientation, burn, and they did have trouble. As you can see, you can actually see oh, they've lost it now. Yeah, you can see that red dot. That's the capsule re-entering.
Yeah.
Um, But they were testing. They fired the thrusters on the module itself on the capsule. They did have one failure, but they got plenty of redundancy, and they've been able to line it up. It's just hitting the atmosphere now, and as you can see, there's some uh, the little red dot is it's actually coming through the atmosphere. There was for a brief second there a bigger image. You can actually see a slight tail behind it.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah, it's like a meteor.
yeah, I think we're due about there we go. I think we're due about another probably 10 odd minutes before it actually lands. Of course, this is landing in the night time over there.
Yes.
So everything's going to be infrared. All the crews are ready. I've been watching the preparations while they've been doing their last briefings, and they're all at their vehicles now, just waiting for this to come back. You can see the tail developing well now.
Yeah.
But fingers crossed, everything's good at the moment. But of course, at
Excellent.
the moment, they can't get any telemetry really to contact with it because it's gone into radio silence itself at the moment.
That's right. That's right. And the fact that they've had a thruster fail demonstrates yet again that there's a problem with the spacecraft.
Mm.
Um, it was one. It could have been more. So
Yeah, it's just another thing they got to put on their list of things to do. Um, it as you can see, it's glowing very brightly now.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just another thing they got to put on their tick list to do. As I said, we were saying earlier, when this thing does get down, there's going to be after a whole load of serious questions that have got to be answered.
yeah,
Because I mean, it strikes me the other week, well, about a week ago, SpaceX lost a booster on as it tried to land at sea on the barge, and the FAA immediately decided they're going to have an inquiry.
yes,
And we said, well, my attitude was, well, why are they doing that? It was at sea. It basically it was obviously something's gone wrong. There was no life at risk. Why are they starting an investigation?
yeah, indeed.
And also considering that all the other rocket providers dump all their rockets in the sea,
Mm,
so what?
yes,
Why is why are they why are they all of a sudden they want this investigation? But of course they soon retracted that. But if that's the case, if they're that serious, because at the end of the day there was humans involved with this capsule,
exactly,
so
exactly.
um,
I mean, they.
if they don't have some sort of investigation, a serious one, then of course the only thing is when they do these investigations, who does the investigating? Boeing, yeah. So
Yeah, I know.
um, so it's the same with SpaceX. When they have an investigation, it's SpaceX who does the investigation. It's because the FAA, even though they issue licenses, they know nothing about spaceflight
No.
and vehicles and all that. So the only people who can investigate it It's the people themselves. And so all they can rely upon is the people's honesty that they're actually saying that they've corrected these things. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah, it's funny you say that because there have been calls for a separate independent body to govern spaceflight rather than the FAA. But I don't think that's likely to change in the near future. It's within the FAA's purview to uh, to govern spaceflight because it's airspace over the US basically.
yeah.
So, but it would make sense to have a body of people who are experts on spaceflight, um, who had the expertise to
Oh,
manage this. Oh, that's the drone
oh,
shoots.
that's a drone shoot. So
Oh,
oh, no,
wow.
that's the. So that's. I don't think that's the main parachutes, is it?
No, I don't. No, it isn't. No, or is it?
Probably
No,
just.
it can't be. Or is
No,
it?
it was. It might be a case that we just seen the a small drone shoot to pull out these two shoots, but then again, he's coming in pretty fast by the looks of it.
It is. It is.
Um, because I don't think those shoots have opened properly if they are the main shoots.
No, they haven't.
Because usually they appear a lot larger than that.
Yes.
I'll get the impression because sometimes we see these from different angles and from aeroplanes, and we think it's closer to the ground than it really is
Yes,
because
indeed.
they're using a telephoto lenses and all that. It foreshortens everything, so you think, "Oh, that's coming in fast. That's close." Because we were all playing the guessing game when the Bennu samples came back. Oh, that's close. That's hang about. It's still about 6 miles up. So it's
Let's listen in to NASA
yeah.
and
Okay then.
see if they say
Planes
anything.
are out. We'll see the bottom heat shield that has been protecting Starliner through its journey through the atmosphere come off. That makes way for the landing airbags to deploy.
Yeah, looks like the bucket handles. Here comes the
Oh,
main
there we
shoot,
go.
And
There
there's
we
the
go.
main parachutes there on your
and they've
screen.
got all
We see
three
3
by the look
out,
of it.
Yeah.
currently reefing.
One of them's flapping, so let's hope they all open safely. Because the power handles they call it,
And
it
the
just
teams
There
at
we
the
go.
reorientates the
landing recovery
thing,
teams report that they heard the booms
reorientates the capsule.
as those came out. 3
Three
good
lovely
mains
shoots
fully
there.
open there.
Beautiful.
You can see Starliner in a slight tilt, so we're going to see the rotation handle move here shortly, and it will level out Starliner. But 3 good parachutes, looking great. Just a little over 2 minutes until the expected landing time, and we heard the rotational handle has been released, so you can see that tilt evened out. Next up is the back heat shield jettison.
There we go.
Yes, yeah.
And there it goes. That again makes way for the airbag inflation.
Hope there's
Nice
no
to see
again with
that.
that.
You can see the airbags deploying
Well, I
there
hope
on
they
your
recover
screen.
that, and because
Those
they'll be able
airbags are
to.
filled with nitrogen as they guide Starliner safely back to the desert floor.
Because if you remember, the Orion heat shield was completely trashed.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how this heat shield held up. See, again, that's something else I can't understand. I know that's the Orion's Lockheed Martin, but considering
Just a
we've been
beautiful sight
building
as
heat
Starliner
shields
makes its way
for
to the sands of New
since the
Mexico.
60s, we can't understand why on the Orion they had one that
And flight
really
controllers confirming 6 good airbags.
sort of like got very seriously damaged.
This view still coming to us
And
from
of
the
course,
Cessna. We've got
we haven't had any
about
answers
just about
from
a
it,
minute left to
considering how
go
long
until the
ago the
expected
Orion
touchdown.
flew.
No, that's right.
I'll be watching for that time for you.
So we're within a couple of minutes of the end of this sorry mission.
Yeah, we're sorry that the timings have all awry, but that's out of our hands.
Absolutely.
Everything seems to be going correctly.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's hopefully it's a successful end to a really rubbish mission, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And as we said, questions have got to be asked, and they've got to
We're
be
just about
answered
15
properly.
seconds away from expected touchdown.
And to be honest, I'll be very
You're seeing the
surprised
ground there in your
if
screen as we
this is
get
allowed
closer.
to fly again with crew, without at least one more test mission
Well, this is
uncrewed.
a big question, isn't it? Are NASA going to ask Boeing to fly another crewed mission before they certify
Yeah,
it?
because of course it'll be at the cost of Boeing.
Yes, indeed.
So it's a watch this space scenario, but I think there's going to be. We know there's already been some heated debates
Hmm,
between Boeing and NASA, um, and I think there's a few more to come yet. But all these problems are basically of Boeing's own making, so they've
exactly.
only got themselves to blame.
They have.
So, oh,
Touchdown.
there we are,
Starliner
touchdown.
is back on Earth. That landing
There
coming
we are.
at 11:01 and 35 seconds Central Time, 10:01 and 31 seconds Mountain Time at White Sands Space Harbor at the U.S. Army's Missile Range in New
There we are.
Mexico.
There we.
Our landing and recovery teams will now wait
Stand
for
on this.
clearance before making.
There we are. Well, that's it then. The mission's over. But of course, the mission isn't over for Butch Wilmore and Sonny Wilson.
No, no, they've got another few months up there. 5 months is it?
Yeah,
Something like
until
that. Yeah.
February.
The last chute slowly deflates itself. Well, of
Yeah.
course, now the crews are going to come in. First of all, they'll keep a safe distance and use sniffers to make sure there's no um, excess fuel venting from any of the thrusters and all that. And once they really think it's safe, then they'll be able to move in slowly and
Oh,
make
sure.
everything safe and recover the capsule, and then we'll see what goes on.
And can we just say thank you to all of you for joining us at the moment? Good morning, Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Um, welcome. Welcome, Andrew. Andrew says Britain Channel here. Could you expound upon that, Andrew? I'm not quite sure what you mean there, but you are welcome. Yes, Ian. The schedule changed, so we're a bit early this morning, but we're glad you could be with us, Ian. And oh, look,
What are these two shoots?
those are the two drogues floating away.
Oh, okay then.
Yeah,
I thought was Butch and Sunny on there and they bailed out?
of course. Butch and Sonny will be looking at that, thinking, "God, we could have been on that. We could have been home."
Well, the thing is, until they recover it and make sure everything's fine, you don't know what state the capsule's in. I mean, it looks fine, but yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's, you don't want to put a crew in danger, and that's what it. And this was basically what the problem was, is that in the past when they've been a bit too flippant, bit too up themselves, and we have lost crew. So it's a case of that being an election year.
Mm.
They don't want to be losing somebody. So I think the choice was correct. Well, actually, as far as I'm concerned, they should never have been on there in the first place.
Right.
Because with the leaks, then you knew that there was a fault. Now, if you know there's a fault, you don't fly.
No, absolutely.
And saying you can't get to the bottom of this, that, and the other, it's no excuse.
Exactly.
So it it's just one of those things. But as I said, there's going to be a lot of questions going to be asked, and I hope they, like SpaceX, they're open about it. Because I know in SpaceX contracts is basically they're in their contract. This means that they have to be open.
Yes, absolutely.
Everything's got to be done in the glare of the public view. But it's not always the case when you look at likes of Boeing and other crews and all that. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly we start to get answers, and whether or not they will keep us informed. Because the last thing we want them to do now is, because they've been doing sort of like almost weekly press conferences, is for them to just to completely shut up, and then we get some sort of half baked response in about a month or two's time. Either way, and there goes the convoy.
Yeah. Of course, Boeing are going to turn around now and saying, "See, we told you it would be okay." So
But yeah, well, oh yeah, that's their attitude.
yeah,
But that's their attitude to everything, even to their civil aviation.
mind you, as you
So,
said, that they did lose one thruster on the way down.
yeah, there was when they tested the thrusters, they fired all the thrusters. There's 12 of them on there, and one of them didn't respond.
Yeah,
Apparently, there's 6 times redundancy, so I'm assuming that means they only need 2 thrusters. Um, and so losing one wasn't a problem, but they still lost a thruster.
yeah.
Remember, this is the problem they've had. I
Of
mean, I could go into other things, which I'm not, which probably this isn't the place to do it, about the ethics of the Boeing company and some of the things, tricks that they've got up to, which could possibly be a part of this problem, especially with the valves.
yeah,
You
indeed.
know, because they were sued for um, intellectual theft by a company. I can't remember their names now. But yeah, they had these valves, and they introduced them to Boeing. Boeing said no, they're not good enough. And next thing you know, they're using them. They made their own, and they were
Yeah,
sued, and the company won. But it's just strange. I hope these aren't the valves that they're using these valves, and this is where the problem lies. Because the company said the reason that they're more concerned is the fact that the Boeing didn't have the historical data where they've tested all these valves, so they know the ins and outs of all of them.
mm,
Which also again went against NASA's um, remit that everything has to be tested to the nth degree, and they need the history of the valve testing and things like that.
mm,
But it's things like that that doesn't put um, Boeing in a very good light. I mean, that's not the only case of intellectual theft that they've done, intellectual property theft that they've done. But yeah, it's yeah. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. But it's here now. You can see the heat shields slowly cooling down.
mm,
That's going to be hot, hot, hot. Well, actually, it's not the heat shield. It's the sort of like the secondary shield,
yeah,
because we saw the heat shield be ejected. So yeah, it's I see we've got quite a few people in, so thank you for joining us. And again, and we apologise that you missed the start, but the timings have adjusted and things like that. So it it's one of these things. Anyway, thank you for joining us because we know it's really early in the morning. So yeah,
indeed,
thank
indeed.
you.
I wonder if the new CEO of Boeing is going to make any difference because
Um, well,
the
yeah,
guy who's just left. I don't know whether you saw him being questioned, but
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, I mean, obviously he's not an engineer. He's an accountant
yeah.
basically.
Well,
Um,
he's a parasite because his last wage slip was 38 million pounds for a
yeah,
year, and that was 40 odd percent more than he had the year before. And when he was asked whether or not his uh, what his remit was, and was it basically part of his remit to make sure everything is open, clarified, and that everything is open and it's in the public things, and he said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "Well, how come they asked him, why are you being investigated by all these organizations saying that you are not open? You
mm,
do not tell the truth. You do not do this, that, and the other." And he was a conceited chap, and he did say, "Yes, I'm not an engineer."
no, exactly.
And again, this all comes back again to whereas we said before that the um, uh, Boeing was the benchmark of all engineering, and that's what people looked to. But
Mm,
once they merged with Lockheed Martin, the whole attitude of the company changed.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's in total disarray at the moment.
And McDonnell Douglas, not Lockheed Martin.
Oh, sorry, McDonnell Douglas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't want to
Oh,
cast aspersions there.
I'm going to get sued now. Yeah, McDonnell
I can
Douglas.
just hear those
Sorry.
lawyers reaching
Yeah,
for the phone now.
yeah. McDonnell. Then everything changed, and it became a cash cow.
Yeah.
And it was cut costs, cut costs, cut costs, and let's make as much profit as
But I mean,
everything.
this has been the trend, hasn't it?
Mm,
In massive corporations where the
mm.
CEOs get massive pay rises for really poor performance.
Yeah, and they're not qualified for the jobs that they're actually you know, like I said, this bloke isn't an engineer. He doesn't know anything about space. But then, can you remember I sent you that clip of the bloke who's supposed to be they were interviewing for a chap who was going to be the head of the FAA. And the bloke,
Oh, yeah,
the best thing he'd done is he said he managed an airport. So he
yeah,
didn't even manage the planes. All it was managing the shops, the infrastructure,
yeah. He
and
wasn't actually
everything
the
else.
manager of the airport. He was some sort of, as you say, infrastructure manager,
Yeah, yeah,
and he
he
thought
was.
he could
So
run
yeah, he
the
wasn't. Yeah,
FAA.
it was
Uh,
nothing to do with
Crazy.
planes or anything like that.
No,
And he was relying more upon his military history.
yeah, yeah. It was quite entertaining watching him being grilled when he had to admit he had
Yeah,
no experience in the actual aerospace industry at all. And "Oh, I managed a few shops at the airport. That'll do."
yeah,
I mean,
but
they're all the same. But do you know something? I think when it comes down to it, money means absolutely nothing to these people
oh
because
well, because it's not theirs. Yeah,
yeah, and if you think about Elon Musk, the world's richest man, depending on the month, but you know,
mm,
in the top two or three of the world's richest man, and he asked for a $50 billion a year pay rise, which was then struck down by the court, and he's still trying to get it. Now, when you're the world's
mm.
richest man, what does an extra 50 billion a year mean to you? You know, nothing.
Oh, exactly,
And
exactly.
he doesn't understand how normal people look at that and think, I'll never have a salary of 50 billion a year, let alone a rise of 50
Mm.
billion a year. And I don't understand this world. There's a lot about this world I don't understand.
Yeah, I've just noticed Ian's admiring our backgrounds.
Oh, is he? Let's have a
Yeah,
look.
it says that Andy's is Whirlpool. I'm not
Oh,
sure if it is, but and mine's the Crab Nebula. Nah, mine's just a generic nebula thing. If anything, it's probably a bit more like the Veil Nebula, but it's just a generic cover you put up just to and it's backlit as well. Because if people who were here as earlier on, I apologise for the quality of my uh, camera work at the moment because I've had to decamp because I couldn't work from the office upstairs. I had to come downstairs because my partner would be a little bit annoyed for
yeah, and
saying,
Ian says, "Why is Daz also handy?" Well, the
"Oh
thing
yeah, so didn't I change my name?"
you didn't change your name.
Yeah,
Never
but
mind.
you can tell the difference. I'm the good looking one, so you know. So it's
Yeah, I'm
but
Andy. He's Daz.
yeah. But going back to what we were talking about, be quite honest. And I've said this earlier. All this problems with um how the space industry works. Well, let's put it this way: how NASA, the Senate, or basically the U.S. government work and how this goes back to way before NASA, how this whole system works, and it's ended up into basically a massive cash cow where people can um, g- put in for contracts, they get them under these cost plus contracts, and they don't really have to do anything,
That's
but
right.
they still get paid,
I still
and if
get
they
paid.
overruns, they get paid more.
Yeah.
You
Can I
know,
just
and
tackle a couple of questions here?
yeah, sorry, go on.
Um, Andrew says, funny how little seems to be coming from the Webb telescope. They need to have a fix for as long as possible for the deepest shots. Well, there are new shots coming from the Webb all the time. what you find happens, Andrew, is that a lot of the observing programs are the data is not released immediately
Mm.
because of proprietary rights that the research teams behind the telescope have. For example, a university is allowed observing time on the telescope, but because they want their researchers to get the first analysis in and write the first papers, very often, because of that, the data is not released publicly for some time. For example, the TRAPPIST planetary system, that lovely system of 7 planets that the Webb has studied, a university team has the proprietary rights on those. So the full data wasn't released for a year after the observation. So if there appears to be a lull in observations, it's probably because of that. But the Webb is observing all the time. I mean, it was something like, was it 7 or 8 times oversubscribed the time on the
Yeah,
Webb?
yeah.
Uh,
Because this is we just finished the second year, have we, or is it?
mm,
Uh, yeah, yeah, we just finished the second year, haven't we?
yes,
And
that's
if I
right.
remember right.
So
Um,
this is why. But
yeah,
rest assured that telescope is in use 24 hours a day by different research teams. It has to be. It has to be because otherwise,
yeah,
obviously, it's a criminal waste of money. We have to get the most science out of the Webb we can, basically.
yeah. I mean, if you go to the website, that sounds silly, doesn't it? The website, the Webb Telescope site.
Mm,
There is lots of information there. There's usually some images that you haven't seen before.
yes, indeed.
And you can spend probably an hour or so just going through and being absolutely amazed,
Mm,
reading the descriptions, and that. But everything that is available to the public is in the Webb Telescope.
yeah, it's all in the public domain eventually.
Yeah, yeah. And
So,
then, like you say, as Andy said, originally, some of the things that are done, the people who have proposed the run on whatever it is, the Trappist or whatever, they get first dibs at it, and then eventually they are contracted that it will be released at some time.
yeah,
That's all,
sure.
plus all the data as well with it. So,
Absolutely, absolutely.
mm,
What else have we got here? Yes, Ian. My background is indeed M51. A lovely image of it. And what else have we got here? Uh, Andrew Wonders says, "Hang on, let's find it here. Doesn't China have 2 rovers on the dark side of the moon? I assume he means the far side. Um, they don't have any operational rovers at the moment. Both missions in the rovers have come to an end. Of course, what you have to
have they?
remember is that uh, on the moon, rover missions are limited usually to 2 weeks because they're not equipped to survive through the lunar night, which, of course, as we know, depending where you are, lasts 2 weeks. So rover missions on the moon don't tend to last very long.
Yeah,
Um, and he also says he loves how most deep space exploration movies depict astronauts going bonkers. That's true. But then again, if you think about it, you know, it's not very cinematically interesting if they don't. If
yeah.
you had a space movie where you had a long-term space flight and they said to the astronauts, "How are you feeling?" They said, "Oh, everything's absolutely tickety-boo, absolutely fine."
Mm.
There'd be no film, so
But
everything.
then again, also they managed to handle sort of like, how can I say, love scenes and things like that
Oh,
quite well
oh
for
God!
being in microgravity. So
And do you remember the film Gravity with
yeah,
George
yeah,
Clooney and what's her name, Sandra
yeah.
Bullock?
Sandra Bullock, yeah,
And
yeah,
oh God, that was just I hated that film. I hated.
yeah.
Mind you, I watched a film yesterday that I absolutely detested. I watched Twisters yesterday.
Oh yeah, there's yeah, I know what you mean by yeah.
Well, I tell you something. I literally fell asleep in the middle of it for about 10 minutes.
Mhm.
It's the first time I've done that in a film for a very long time.
Yeah,
I thought it was dreadful. I mean, I loved the original Twisters in 1996.
yeah,
I thought that was a fab film, and I sometimes
yeah.
rewatch that.
Yeah.
But this,
Just going back to the thing about rovers on the moon.
mm,
Can you remember? Uh, no, let me get this right. Slim, um,
yeah,
the Japanese lander
yes,
that landed and tipped over.
yes,
Apparently, it was only about a week ago they actually switched it off.
yes. It
Apparently,
wasn't. It wasn't expected to survive the
yeah,
lunar night, but it's done so several times.
several times it's come back
Yeah,
to life. But now they said because it fell over that the solar panels weren't facing
the
the
sun.
actual where the sun would be, and
Yeah,
but it was getting enough enough light to recharge the battery, so it was actually giving scientific data, even though it was on its side. Um,
yeah,
all the for well, consider well, so what was that? Was probably about what 8 months,
something like that. Yeah, a
something
long
like that.
time
Because
ago.
if you remember, it was
A
it
testament to good old Japanese engineering.
yeah, it was something that we were looking forward to. And again, this is something we've got to get to start talking about because I think there's some more moon landers in the pipeline very soon.
Yes,
Um, so let's hope we have a bit more luck than we have had recently with some hard landings. So yeah, so I'm just trying to see what Andrew says. Once in a deep dark in a in a deep dark on a lake, I had a rare experience looking up, and I wondered how many others had the same without focusing on any one star. My vision kept going deeper and deeper. Yes, if you it's a funny effect. And it's there is it's you if you just lay there and just stare, your eyes actually sort of like almost unfocus, and you do actually. The impression is that you do see more.
mm,
So yeah, if you dark skies, then yeah, if you ever get to dark skies places and all that, to be able to see the Milky Way in its full glory is absolutely amazing. But then again, also I found if you go to the really dark skies and all that, sometimes it's hard to pick out the constellations
oh God,
because the
it is.
star field is so there's so much there
Mm.
that you can't even see make out the constellations. You've got to
Well,
really know where you're looking. So but it's a
well,
fascinating thing to
as
see.
I've said before, the clearest, darkest night I've ever seen was from Cornwall. Believe it or not,
Mm,
we just had an amazingly rare night where the Milky Way was a thick, thick cloud across the sky. And you're right, you couldn't make out the constellations. You didn't know what
yeah.
the hell you were looking at. What I thought we'd do is just have a look at upcoming launches.
Yep.
What have we got going on um, for the next few weeks, maybe? So, what have we got? We've got Polaris Dawn launching on Monday. We'll be covering that on Monday. Our coverage starts at 8:15 UK time on Monday. Hope you can join us for that, for the launch of this incredible mission.
Yeah.
We've got the launch of a Soyuz on Wednesday. The next day, we've got the Falcon 9 um, launching the first 5 satellite for AST Space Mobile's satellite constellation. For mobile phones, that is, not for anything else. Um, and they're the Bluebird satellites. Wasn't there already a Bluebird satellite?
Oh, well, that's something. That's a new one on me.
That sounds familiar.
Um,
Then,
well, of course,
then
we had the
sometime,
Bluebird with all the car and the boats and that. Was it?
yeah, true. Then, of course, coming up in September, we've got the second certification flight of the ULA Vulcan rocket. The first mission passed off without incident. So once that they get this certification, if all goes well, they can actually start launching military payloads. Um, we've got some upcoming Galileo launches sometime in September, dates to be announced. Uh, Galileo, of course, is the European GPS, and I forget how many they launched so far, but that's coming up as well.
There's your Crew 9.
There's the Crew 9. Yeah, we said it was September. September
Yeah.
the 24th for the launch of the Crew 9 to the International Space Station.
Oh, we've got Hera there as well.
Yeah, we've got. We will, of course, as always, try and cover that launch for you. We've got Hera, which is the follow-up mission, if you remember, to the NASA DART planetary defense mission, which collided a space probe with an asteroid and actually managed to divert its orbit. So Europe's launching a follow-up spacecraft to observe what's happened a year on. Then we've got a very special launch on October the 10th, the launch of Europa Clipper, beginning its long journey to Jupiter to study that very, very interesting, intriguing moon Europa around Jupiter. And we're looking forward to that. Of course, Europe has already launched a probe to the Jovian moons, the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, or JUICE. That's on its way, arriving in 2029, I think it was.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because with the Europa Clipper, if you remember, they were saying that after it had been built, they were concerned about some of the instruments not being able to survive the radiation.
Yeah.
But they're pretty confident that they've tested them and they will, or how can I say it, they should survive.
Oh, good. That's good.
So yeah, that's good. What's the name?
So
Oh,
then on
Escapade. I'm looking forward to that one.
Then on October the 13th, we've got the maiden flight of the Blue Origin New Glenn launcher, this new heavy lift booster from New Glenn, from Blue Origin.
Sorry,
will,
I was just going to say, sorry, Andy, to be rude.
yes,
Escapade, yeah, I'm looking forward to the actual satellites, but then I just suddenly realised it's New Glenn.
yeah.
Okay, well, I won't hold my
Well,
breath for that one then.
these are two probes on their way to Mars for NASA. The new name Blue and Gold, where they're going to be carrying out lots of interesting scientific work at Mars, lasting for 11 months. And they carry science experiments from the University of California in Berkeley. And this is interesting because NASA have trusted Blue Origin enough to put two precious Mars probes on the maiden flight of a rocket. I would question the wisdom of that because, wisdom does dictate that if you've got a brand new booster, you don't put valuable payloads on it for its maiden flight. However, we will see. And then at some point, much delayed, is the launch of Sierra's Dream Chaser coming up at some point. And it's been delayed from August 22, December 23, January 24, April 24, and September 24. So it's well overdue, this mission. So there we are. Anyway, I just thought we'd go through that. And so you know what's coming up. We will, of course, do our very best to share as many of those launches with you as we possibly can. And there we are. Ian says, how soon will people get to Mars in our lifetimes? Depends how old you are, Ian. In my lifetime and Daz's lifetime, maybe not. But
if you're being born today, you stand a good
somebody
chance
being
of
born
seeing
today,
it.
I think we could pretty much guarantee it.
We're pushing just to see another man on the moon.
Yes, okay,
We'd like to see that again, but
don't forget, in 2019, Elon said that SpaceX will be sending the first people to Mars in 2022. Luckily, he was talking Elon time, and nobody took him seriously. I don't know. I can't see it happening within the next 10 years, to be quite honest.
Well, the way, to be quite honest, the way Artemis is going, we're not going to. I don't think we're going to see anyone on the moon before 2030, and probably
I
even
very
after
much
that.
doubt it because of all
It's in such
the problems.
disarray at the moment. because they're even now questioning the Lunar Gateway
Yes.
as regards that will the Starship be able to
Dock
dock
with it.
with it without
Mm,
throwing it all out of a kilter because of the mass being
yeah.
added to it. So, as I said, I think again the Lunar Gateway, and I've always said this right from the word when they first talked about it.
Mm,
It's a white elephant. It's not needed. Um,
absolutely.
and considering it's going to be empty 9 months of the year, I think what's the point?
Mm,
Um, because again, Boeing can't build the SLSs quick enough to
exactly.
have a frequency, a decent frequency of flying. I mean,
Yeah.
look how long ago it was since. Well, it's only flown. What was it once?
Mm,
And it still hasn't flown again
no.
because that was what 2 years ago.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, and of course, as I was talking about earlier, um, they're during the inspections, they're finding sub quality welding
Mm,
um,
exactly.
on the thing. So and so they're not doing very well at the moment. So
No,
it,
things. If we ever want to get back to the moon, things are going to have to change big time.
yeah, lots of things. I mean, we haven't even got moon suits, and the people who were building the moon suits have pulled out, haven't they?
Yes, exactly.
So what's happening there, I do not know.
No, and at
Um,
one point, I was thinking, if NASA don't manage to get back to the moon for these all these multiple reasons, SpaceX will go it alone. But the way the slow progress with Starship means that I don't even see SpaceX on their own
yeah,
going to
because
the moon.
they got fined, didn't they, for this
Yes, the
polluted
water
water?
pollution.
But
Yeah.
well, what I've been reading is that they were saying that what was printed in the paper, which started all this investigation stuff going on, was actually a misprint.
Yeah,
Um,
but
and the point, the decimal point, was in the wrong place.
yeah,
But
but
they said, "You carry on, mate."
so I was going to say that I think there were four metals: mercury, nickel, copper,
Hmm.
and something else. Was it aluminium? Um, that they apparently got the decimal point wrong. I don't see that somehow. I don't.
Yeah,
See. Anyway, look.
but who got the decimal point wrong? Blue Origin or not Blue Origin? Well, yeah, they always get the decimal point wrong.
Yeah.
Um, uh, SpaceX or the people who did the investigation supposedly. Because I think it was written in a report, and somebody picked up that this decimal point. Well, they saw it, and it basically meant that it was illegal amounts of mercury
Yes,
that
that's
I
right.
saw. But then the SpaceX come back and said, "Well, that's rubbish because it's a printing error."
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know about that. Time will
because
tell.
they said we've done everything that we've been asked by the
Mm,
Texas water
mm.
authorities. So yeah, I don't
Anyway,
know.
time will tell. Anyway, I think we'll draw things to a close for this morning.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so
Anyway,
much for being with us this morning. We will be back at 8:15 UK time on Monday morning for the launch of Polaris Dawn. This is a mission we look forward to all of them, but particularly because this is so innovative and different. And let's hope that with this mission they can raise another 250 million for St Jude's Children's Cancer Hospital,
yeah.
uh,
This is a
like
very important
like the first mission did.
mission. Yeah, it
But
is very
we're
important.
going to get to see the first spacewalk from SpaceX in a SpaceX designed spacesuit. The spacecraft is going to go into the highest ever orbit um, around the Earth, attempted by a crewed vehicle, and all sorts of wonderful science as well. So join us on Monday at 8:15 UK time for the launch of the Polaris Dawn mission. Don't forget, coming up on Tuesday, we have our normal Tuesday live stream. And this coming Tuesday, planetary scientist Lou Mayo will be starting a series on the subject of climate change, but particularly relating to space and space exploration, how that all fits together. So we're looking forward to that very much from Lou, because as you know, Lou, having spent decades in planetary science, Lou's speciality was Saturn's moon Titan, That was his area of expertise, but he's a font of knowledge about everything to do with space. So we're looking forward to his series on Tuesday. So don't forget, join us at 8 o'clock UK time on Tuesday for our normal Tuesday live stream. We'd like to thank you all for being here very much.
Well,
Thank you
thank
for your
you.
attention. Have a fantastic weekend. I'm going back to bed. Although, what time is it here? It's getting on for 7 o'clock in the morning here. I probably won't go back to bed now. But I'd like to thank Daz for basically
Oh, thank you.
staying up
Thank
all night.
you.
Daz has been up all night. You need to get some sleep, mate.
Yeah. Well, no. The thing is, I knew if I fell asleep, I probably wouldn't have got up again. But
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
there's plenty of stuff to watch, and
yeah.
always go
There
out
you
and
are.
look at the
There's a message
stars.
for you, Ian. Thanks for
Yeah.
hosting, guys. Thank you, Ian. Thank you for being with
Yeah.
us as always. Your
Yeah.
support
He's saying he's getting a headache now, so he's
your support
yeah.
is
Yeah.
much appreciated. Andrew, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
believe it's your first time here, so we hope you'll join us on Monday and Tuesday. Of course, you can see the live streams in advance on YouTube. The live stream for Tuesday I will set up this weekend when we know exactly what's happening in it. So thank you all for being here, and we'd like to wish you a very good morning from
Yeah.
everybody at Space Oddities. Take care, and we'll see you
Yeah.
soon.
Hope
Bye.
to see you Monday.
Yeah, hope to
Everybody
see you Monday.
stay safe, everyone.